Hello, and welcome to our 40th episode of Stash Chats. Today, I'm going to be joined by the wonderful Laura, who is the founder of the Specky Seamstress. So I'll get Laura on in a bit, but before we start, do say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from, and I've got a few notices before we start with the chat. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who supported our sale that was on this weekend. We had a sale on Stash Hub Plus subscriptions to celebrate our wedding anniversary, because Doug and I have been married for 7 years now. So yeah, thank you to everyone who wished us a happy anniversary, who shared about the sale, who told their sewing friends. And if you subscribed this weekend as well, we really appreciate it. It was amazing. And also in other Stash Hub news, we have got a new update that is ready for you to download now, and I will be sharing lots more details about it on our Instagram page tomorrow, which is at stash_hub. Or if you can't wait to find out, there is a tutorial for the new feature on our YouTube channel right now. So after this chat, you can go and watch that. And speaking of our YouTube channel, we're only 5 subscribers away from our first 1,000 subscribers. So if you're watching us right now and you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe so we can get to that 1,000. Linda says, hello from Bury St Edmunds. I'm a Specky Seamstress subscriber. Excited to be here joining. Amazing. So yeah, a lot of you will hopefully already know about Laura and the Specky Seamstress. She makes incredible bias binding with really fun and unique designs. I don't think you can actually get bias binding even similar anywhere else, but I'm sure Laura will tell you lots more about that. But yeah, do ask your questions for Laura in the chat as well. You can just pop them in anytime and I'll weave them into the conversation so that we can keep it all going and you can hear what you want to know about Laura, because we're going to have to finish this episode on time today because our UK viewers, probably a lot of them will be wanting to watch the Sewing Bee, which is on BBC One at 9 p.m. So we're going to have to wrap it up in good time, otherwise everyone's going to miss the all the nice spoilers that they do right at the start of the show. So yeah, thank you guys for joining, and right, let's quickly get Laura on before I waffle on and waste too much of our time. Hello Laura, thanks for joining.
Hi everyone. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, great. Yeah, we've already got one of your subscribers joining us. So
hi Linda.
So yeah, do you want to get straight into it and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I'm Laura. I have been sewing now for coming up to 6.5, 7 years ish. Although I flirted with dressmaking quite a lot before I properly learned to sew.
I'm curious about this, so I will ask you about this a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, please do. Yeah, I live in Berkshire with my husband and my 2 boys. So I have a just coming up to 2-year-old and a 3-month-old at home. So I'm permanently tired. And I was saying to Yvette just before we started that it was a rough day today in the life of parenting a newborn. So I'm very delighted to be chatting sewing to perk me up after a bit of a rough day. And yeah, I like sewing fun, like patterns and prints and bold colors. And I really started learning to sew because I couldn't find what I wanted to wear in the shops, and that's kind of me, really.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I might have talked about this last week, but I went shopping for like clothes recently and it was rubbish, and I was like, I can't believe I used to have to do this for every item of clothing. Like, if you've got something specific in mind, you can never find it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think the more you sew, the more specific you get with what you want, because you know you can make it. I was actually I go to a knit and natter group locally while I'm on maternity leave, and I was chatting to one of the ladies there who was buying some stuff for a holiday, and she was talking about being in the changing rooms, and I was like, I haven't been in a changing room since before COVID, which is crazy. And my life is so much better for the lack of changing rooms in my life. So yeah, it is crazy what sewing kind of unlocks.
Amazing. So do you want to tell us a bit about your false starts with sewing?
Yeah, so I learned to sew at school, actually. So I learned how to use a sewing machine at school. I did a textiles GCSE, which I don't think exists, or not in many schools anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I read a post about someone who's a sewing teacher, and they said they don't do it anymore. Like, you have to do all the texts as one DT or something.
Yeah, so you good at like all of the things. But yeah, I did that, and I learned to make like a pillowcase and they called it a nightie, but it was really just a pillowcase with a hole in the bottom. Like it wasn't actually wearable. So I knew how to use a sewing machine, and I always had this idea of wanting to make my own clothes. But I tried a few times, but didn't really like dedicate enough brain space to learn. So I kind of jumped in for like feet first, and picked stretchy fabric and had a pattern, but I didn't really know quite what I was doing. And it took until I left a job in London. So I was commuting to London, which was taking up like 10 hours a week of my life, or more, because they never run on time. And I decided to leave that job and work somewhere more local. And I said to my then fiance, I am going to learn to sew. Like that, I need to say those 8 hours, 10 hours that I'm wasting commuting at the minute, I'm going to dedicate to learning properly how to sew. And I think I got a kind of an eye roll of like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sure it'll work this time. And I got down the kind of sewing machine that I'd had for a birthday present a few years before. And yeah, the rest is history, because that was just before we got married. And I made like loads of cushion covers for our wedding, because we had our party in our house. So I made a bunch of cushion covers and kind of bits and pieces for the wedding. And then I was like, right, that's it, I'm learning to sew now. I'm learning to sew my own clothes. And I just sort of did, and it stuck. So yeah, I probably tried maybe 4 or 5 times before that to kind of properly learn. But I think that the abundance of resources now online just meant that it was easier to click this time around, because there's just so much help available in so many different formats, and you're not kind of relying on picking up a big 4 pattern and knowing what all of the things mean already.
I was going to say, did you find it easier like to get started, because of the indie patterns? Because I felt like sort of 6-7 years ago was when they all sort of first started really taking off.
Yeah, I think I hit it at a really good time, because it wasn't just that as well. It was like the availability of Instagram. I'd never been on Instagram when I'd been trying to learn to sew before. And just being able to ask people, and the sewing community was so nice that you got responses from either the pattern designer or like someone who'd sewn it before, or just someone who was more experienced than you, who would say, no, this is how you do it. Or like, have you tried this? Or look at this YouTube tutorial or whatever. And you just were able to figure it out yourself, but you kind of weren't by yourself. You just had this whole community around you. So yeah, I think I got in at a good time, so to speak. Like it was, really booming.
Yeah, amazing. So do you want to describe your stash to us? What is your sewing collection like?
It is large. It is overflowing. And I kind of wouldn't have it any other way. I have this idea in my mind, oh, it would be so lovely if I had this like perfectly curated stash, and I only bought stuff for projects that I knew. But that just isn't how I work, and it isn't how my sewing works. Like I like having a big stash to draw from, so that I can kind of do whatever takes my fancy. I don't have to say, oh, I really want to sew this, so I'm going to have to go to a shop to find a fabric, or I'm going to have to like order something and wait for it to come. Because to be honest, my enthusiasm for the project might have gone by then. Like I really need to like capitalize on it. So it's large, and I have a wardrobe for it. So I sew in a sort of summer house shed in the back garden. Which I'm delighted by. In my old house, I used to have a bedroom that I sewed in. And then when we looked around the house, there was this really nice shed that they were using as a gym. And I said to Nick, oh, that might work as a sewing room, thinking he'd be like, oh no, I want it as, my shed, because he does a lot of gardening. And he was like, yes, please do. Never let fabric come in my house again. Never let any of the threads go anywhere. Never let any pins in, which hasn't quite worked, but it's better than it used to be. So yeah, I'm really lucky to have this lovely space. And I bought one of the big like IKEA wardrobes, and I have the big like wire drawers, so I can see some of the fabric, which I think is quite important to me, to be able to kind of be inspired by what's there. And it's loosely organized, maybe not quite as organized as it should be, but I loosely organize it by base. So I've got kind of my jerseys and my viscoses and my cottons, and then I've got like the heavyweight stuff at the bottom, which takes up far too much room. And then what I'm trying to do, because I've been sorting out my sewing space recently, is hang up the fabrics that I'm kind of either about to sew or that I particularly want inspiration for. So like I hang up something on hangers, because the top of the wardrobe is hanging space rather than drawers. So I can sort of see it and feel like really excited and inspired by it. So that's kind of how I work it at the minute.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're very visual and also quite a spontaneous sewist.
Yeah, I can have all of the plans in the world, but if something takes my fancy, then that's it. I've got my heart set on it, and it will jump above any other plans. That's why I really struggle to sew basics, because I really have to convince myself, like, no, this will be worth it because it will unlock all of the other cool things that I have in my wardrobe.
I think that's one of the problems when you're really drawn to like prints and bright colors. It's like making those more like neutral pieces. You just don't have the stash for it, and you don't have the inclination to make it.
Yeah, definitely. I've had to make the most of some like cheaper fabrics recently to just to convince myself to buy some and have some in the stash. So I bought like 3 meters each of 3 colors of plain viscose, just so that I could make some plain things to draw from with my prints.
Yeah, I was listening to the So What's New in the Biscuit Tin podcast with Sam and Jess, and Sam was saying that she had to put herself on a fabric ban, but she was still allowed to buy plain fabrics.
That's reasonable.
But yeah, speaking of buying fabrics, Linda says, do you buy a lot of your fabric online?
So I do. I don't have many fabric shops nearby me, kind of in person now. So I'm quite near to Purple Stitches, which is mostly quilting cottons, but has some dressmaking, and I do go up there sometimes. But I do tend to buy most of my fabrics online. I love going market shopping for fabrics, and if I had the time, that would be where I would do most of my fabric shopping, I think, because I really love going and having a rummage. I think so. I spent a lot of time as a kid going to boot fairs with my dad, like garage sales, I suppose. And I loved being able to like rummage in a box and not quite know what was going to be there and find something that I'd not seen before. And I think that that's what I miss about buying fabrics online. So I do love it, and there's so many places available, but my preference for shopping would be a market. Definitely, if I can just find something that I've never seen before, that's what always excites me. But yeah, I do buy far more than I should probably online.
You have some like favorite markets that you like to go to?
So I mean, in the UK, obviously, I like Walthamstow, and also I love going to Goldhawk Road, which isn't really a market, but like sort of is a market.
A lot there.
Rummage, and it's that kind of, it's just that feeling of excitement of not knowing what you're going to get, and like really finding a gem is part of that like fun fabric buying for me. But I've never been to Utrecht. I've seen Claire, who is it's going to bug me that I can't remember her shop name. That's gonna it'll come to me. But she goes to Utrecht quite a lot in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands for fabric shopping, because they have like a big long market, and I haven't been there but would love to go. But to be honest, I wish in some ways I was sewing when I was doing a lot of travel, because there are so many markets that I've been to where I've rummaged through fabric because I knew I wanted to sew and I'm kind of drawn to that, but hadn't really bought very much or none or like the right things because I wasn't actually sewing. So I would love to go back. I spent a bit of volunteering time in Kenya, and I would love to go back to Kenya and go to some of the markets and pick up amazing wax prints, and just immerse myself in all of that color again. So maybe one day I can head back.
It's the Ankara Appreciation Week this month as well with Lena and Juliet. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's balls in colourful prints. I think that's going to be really fun.
Yeah, and I have a fabric that I've had in my stash that I bought from Goldhawk Road, which is African wax print, and it's got guinea fowl on it. So it's like kind of, and I need to sew it into something because it's like a crying shame that it's not in my wardrobe.
Maybe this can be your chance then.
Yeah, exactly. Bit of a push.
If the babies will give you some time.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that was another thing that I was going to ask you. Like, how do you manage to fit everything in with the 2 little ones and the business and sewing?
Yeah, it's a lot. I like to be busy though, and I've always been someone who likes to be busy. I like to fill my time, so I've always got something on the go, and I think that you know, me and my husband both know that sewing gives me a lot. Like I get a lot of peace from it, and a lot of excitement and creativity. So it's really important for me to have some time to sew. And especially while I'm on maternity leave, because I also, like, I love my day job, and I take a lot of like pride in my day job. So to not be in that for 6 months is a bit weird, and it's nice to have some projects to work on to kind of still feel like me, I guess. So I think it's been quite important that we definitely kind of prioritize it and make sure that I'm getting time out in the sewing room to myself. And you know, when the babies are behaving, it's a good thing to be able to pick up and do. You know, you can go into the sewing room and sew a few seams here. You don't have to finish a whole project, and you can do that around a nap time, or yeah, you can kind of get it done when they're little. I think the latter half of maternity leave, I will definitely be sewing less, because as they get bigger, they, you know, need more. Well, they're more mobile and stuff, and it just becomes more. But yeah, that and knitting. I do quite a lot of knitting while I'm on maternity leave, because you can kind of do that in dribs and drabs, which I think is the key. But yeah, I would say, how do I get it done? I'm always busy. I'm very happy to do things in short stints, and I have a very supportive husband.
Excellent. This is what we like to hear. Yeah. So do you have like multiple projects on the go at once, or do you try and get through one project at a time?
I think that's changed for me. I think before I had kids, I would have loads of projects on the go at once, and I'm a little bit more confined now. Like, I'm more restrained now, I guess. Although I do currently have 2 projects on the go, but they are the same pattern, and I'm just kind of sewing them in tandem. But I think on the whole, I've got a lot of projects like in my mind on the go, but actually on the kind of cut out and sewing, I've only I try and only have one or a couple at the minute.
Don't have like the amount of enough spare time for loads of batch cutting at the moment.
No, although I am awful when I know that I've got social sewing. So if I'm going to like a sewing day, or I go to a regular monthly sewing social at a sewing teacher, Annabelle sews near me, I'm awful for having more projects than I should, because I always think I'm going to get loads and loads done. I think I'm getting better at not cutting them all out. And so I've literally got all of the fabric ready, but I will take with me like a whole Kallax box full of stuff, and then inevitably sew like 3 seams and chat quite a lot. But yeah, I'm trying to be better at that, but I find it really hard. So I think I'm better at having one project on the go for like day to day. But when it comes up to a social sewing, I'm like, I must have all the things, because what if I run out? And what if I get bored or stuck or whatever? So yeah, maybe I'm a bit variable.
Sort of like packing for a holiday as well, isn't it? You're like, oh, but what if I'm in a trousers mood, but I might need an easy project and maybe a jersey, and you've got like 100 different things, and then you just chat and eat cake and you don't sew anything.
Exactly, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, Mel says you're amazing. When her kids were little, that's all that she could do as well, like dribs and drabs of sewing.
Yeah, I think what has struck me, because I think for like there was about a month where I wasn't doing so much sewing, and I got quite frustrated because I felt like I didn't have the time. And I said to Nick, like, I just need to go to the sewing room when I've got 10 minutes and do something, because they do add up. Like, you do get stuff done that way. Whereas if you're kind of always saying, well, I need to make, you know, 2 hours chunk in order to progress it like a significant amount, that's much harder to do.
Yeah, you just got to, you know, adapt it, your hobby with your lifestyle as it changes, don't you? Otherwise you kind of end up losing it, and you need to keep up that thing that makes you really happy.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think my style has changed since having my kids, and also my body shape has changed. Even though like I'm the same measurements as I was before I had kids, like my body shape has changed, and so stuff that I made before doesn't fit me as well now, or just doesn't feel like my style anymore. And I need to sew so that I can have clothes that make me feel nice as well. So there's kind of a practical side of it as well as a kind of emotional side of it, I guess.
So what did you do for like maternity wear? Did you sew your own maternity clothes, or did you try and make things that you could wear sort of afterwards as well?
yeah, I don't think I made anything specifically maternity, but I made things that would kind of work for me throughout. I think actually maybe I made one maternity dress for work that was kind of my go-to if I had a meeting that was smart. I could wear that. But I made a few things where I changed the like waist seam so it would go over my bump, but I left the fabric in it so that I could kind of take it down afterwards when I didn't need it anymore. But no, I actually filmed a YouTube video about all of my maternity makes, because so many people asked me about it, that I thought I would just kind of film and put it all up there, because there are some really amazing patterns you can use that are quite flexible in sizing, particularly the styles at the minute that are quite loose and flowy. I really like the Kokawawa Crafts honeycomb, which is like princess seams, and it's got bows at the side, so you can sort of cinch it in, but you've also got a bit more room for when you need it at the front. So I've got so that they definitely got me through quite a lot of pregnancy.
Yeah, I feel like a nice sort of loose and floaty outfit is always good to have in your wardrobe as well, isn't it? It's always nice and comfy.
Yeah, definitely. Maternity stuff always gets reworn.
Yeah. Right, I'm just going to remind everyone who's watching in the chat to drop your questions for Laura in the chat box. And before we start doing the show and tell, which is everyone's favourite bit. But before we get into that, obviously I need to talk to you about the Specky Seamstress.
Yeah.
And like what inspired you to start running a business?
So I think because I'd been filming YouTube videos for a while before I started the business, so I had the alias, the Specky Seamstress, for a while, and I sort of had this vision of like, oh, it'd be really cool to run a business under that name, but I don't know what we'd do. Like, and I didn't want to force it; it had to kind of come, I think. And I got really into using bias binding instead of facings, because I just got so fed up of like flappy facings and having to understitch stuff and all of that, and I started to just look for better bias binding, because I think all of the bias binding I had was like cheap polycotton stuff, or you could buy the really posh like Atelier Brunette stuff, but I didn't want that for all of my garments. Like I wanted cotton, and I just couldn't find anything that was different. I'd started to feel confident enough in my clothing that I would invest in putting a nice label in, and making it kind of like bought nice overlocker thread so that it looked nice on the inside. And it just felt really awful to then put this horrible polycotton starchy bias binding around the neck. So I started to look for if anyone else was selling it, because I thought, it'd be really cool if you could have something that like said something fun along the bias, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And like typical maker and engineer brain, I was like, yeah, I can just make it myself, it'll be fine. And it took me ages to figure it out and to get it perfect. And by the time I'd done it and I printed some for myself and made it up, I sort of thought, well, if I want it, someone else must want it. Like there must be some kind of market for it. And I was in the middle of lockdown and I'd moved careers. So I'd moved my job to a totally different industry. And I work in research, and we didn't know where funding was coming from. So like it was quite quiet, and my husband was still at work every day. So I think I needed a project, to be honest. And I set up a crowdfunder through the NatWest Back Her Business campaign that was running during COVID, and they kind of match funded the money raised. And I'd said, it'd be really cool if I could make like £700, and that could get me the first batch of fabrics and like a laptop to do the design work on, and like that would be great. I think I took like £4,500 of orders, and obviously I'd had loads of offers of help from friends, but we got plunged into another lockdown, and I sat with my husband like making kilometers of bias binding at home, and packaging up like 300 orders. And yeah, it's just kind of gone from there. Like we always want to make sure we're making things that we want to see in the shops. So we're not kind of rushing to launch loads of new things. We kind of, as we discuss, so I say we because I set the business up by myself, but I closed the business after like a really rough personal year for a little while. When I reopened it with my friend Ivan, who I know from numerous other parts of our lives, but we met playing cricket. She came on board, and we just meet up every so often and have chats about what we're sewing at the minute and what we're kind of missing in our sewing stash, I guess, and decide whether we think we can do it. And that's where all of the products have come from, and that's where the subscription boxes that we run come from as well, because we run a woven label subscription box and a bias binding subscription box. They're really cheap, like they're £6 a month for UK customers, and I felt like there was a gap for that. Like I don't subscribe to any of the bigger fabric boxes because I'm a little bit fussy, I guess, and I like to like choose my own fabrics. So, but I am a subscriber to some yarn subscription boxes where you pay like a tenner a month and you get something fun. And you know, if it comes and you don't love it one month, it doesn't feel like such a kind of gut wrench, I guess, for me. So I thought there's got to be some kind of market for that. And yeah, we launched it and we love it. We hear from people all the time, you know, it's so nice to be able to get a little treat come through.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a little treat, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah, and we just love it.
Yeah, I feel like you'll do really well on the sort of gift subscriptions over Christmas, because it's like a perfect little gift to get someone if you don't know what to choose for them. Get on a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of people. Actually, we get people sometimes. I had one fairly recently who bought a gift subscription for her mum. She was like, "My mum's been teaching me to sew, and I've decided and I've been showing her Instagram and like the Instagram sewing community, and so I've decided to buy her a gift subscription." And then the mum came back and bought some of our bias binding as a gift for her daughter. So it was like a nice kind of circle of like family specky.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So Pamela says, how far in advance do you have to plan the bias binding subscriptions?
It varies. I tend to do a batch of designing, so I'm not kind of doing a design a month, and I kind of keep that far in advance. I tend to do a batch of designing, and then we kind of work out the next few months from then. So I think at the moment we're planned through to October, I think. But that's probably more than we usually are, I would say. And we've always got a whole a backlog of ideas that are kind of half in the works. So I tend to keep some designs open that I'm working on a little bit, so that when I kind of come back to do a proper design session, I've got something to start from.
Yeah, it's always better than starting from nothing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Linda says, where does the inspiration come from for the quotes?
The quote, like the wordy bias, all over the place, really. I think but yeah, we just sort of crowdsource them with the Specky crew. So me and Ivan are kind of the I don't know, the Specky crew, I guess. And then we've got 4 or 5 people that are helping us out now on kind of freelance or casual employee basis, because both me and Ivan have day jobs and small kids, and it was growing to the point where we just couldn't do it justice anymore by ourselves. And so we have like a group chat where we throw ideas, and also I'm always open to suggestions from people. Like I get quite a lot of people ask for designs when we're selling in person, and we get some of our subscribers sort of say to us, have you thought about this? And actually our subscribers have been proposing new ideas. We've had sort of like a subscriber suggestion box that we're going to put out to vote some of the sort of ones that we think are doable as well. So they've had the kind of suggestion capability, like formally, I guess. And we'll be putting out a vote for some of the top designs from that, so that we can get some that people are requesting.
Oh, that's really good fun. Yeah, I think everyone loves that, having a little vote on what's coming up and being able to suggest their ideas. Yeah. And like the quote ones are often quite sort of like positive messages, aren't they? Like little inspirational things.
Yeah.
Like you've got like the sewing superstar, and this is my
you are a superstar was my first design, or like one of the very first designs, and I absolutely love it. I don't know. I think that there were so many cool, like, positive labels at the time, and I wanted to kind of reflect that, I guess. I wanted to be able to look in my garment and be given a pep talk, I suppose. It's quite nice when you look in your wardrobe and there's just loads of like really positive things.
Yeah, it's a little boost for you when you get dressed in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
And Pauline says, not sewing related, but do you still have time for gaming?
Yes, me and my husband are both big gamers, and it's definitely our like biggest joint hobby. So we game, I would say, a few times a week in the evenings. My husband is gaming now, actually, upstairs with the baby in tow. But yeah, we do. I think that we don't watch a lot of telly, but we do game like quite regularly in the evenings. And it is quite nice, like once the kids are in bed, to just sit on the sofa together and get some gaming time in. And we've got really good friends that we game with, like people that we've never met, but we game with socially online. So it's a proper social activity for us. Like neither of us were ever big pub goers or like party goers, but we chill out and and game with friends.
So do you do sort of co-op type games?
Yeah, mostly. I'm not a big like fighting. Well, that's a lie. I do play fighting games, but like cooperatively against the game rather than against each other. I think that the closest we've ever come to a marital would be over Mario Kart when we were in competition with each other. So I think we tend to avoid those sorts of games, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see why Mario Kart can cause divisions, because sometimes it's really annoying when like something really random happens and then the other person wins and they gloat about it, and you're like, but you wouldn't have won if I didn't get that random spell.
And he's just too good at driving games. Like I just know. Frustrates me. Like I'm a reasonable gamer, so it frustrates me when I'm just totally beaten all of the time.
I know Rainbow Road, it just needs some guardrails.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. All right, well, keep your questions coming. Thank you, guys. And shall we start looking at some of your stash now, Laura?
Yeah, so I've brought out from the sewing room. I was hoping to film in the sewing room, but I don't get enough signal there, so I've kind of come out. But I've brought with me my oldest sewing, like my longest living stash member, I guess.
Oh.
My newest fabric, and then I've bought 3 fabrics that I'd like some help with what to do with. So I thought I'd show you. I said that we traveled quite a lot. And I've got some fabrics from when me and my husband were traveling, and from when I traveled solo as well, that I bought before I knew how to sew. So this. Oh, the lighting's going to be terrible on this. Trying to sort of show, but it's like this kind of golden design on it. It's a black fabric with this beautiful sort of pattern design on it. I bought this in Malaysia. And there was a beautiful market. Actually, it might have been in Singapore. It was on that trip, and we went to this market, and I was desperate to buy some fabric as a kind of souvenir, but I just didn't really know what to pick up because I wasn't sewing. So I've got all of these pieces of fabric that are like 1 meter of cotton, which I can't do very much with, and I'd love some ideas other than just using it as linings and facings and pockets, because it's very pretty, but it's probably not my kind of go-to style now for fabric. But I would like to use it for something as a kind of a nice memory, really, because it would be really fun. I don't have a lot of it, but it's it's just really kind of pretty. So that's probably been in my stash for, well, we're 2024 now, probably coming up 8 to 9 years. It's not great. But yeah, I have a few as well from India that I didn't bring out with me that are like a poly, like satin, like shiny fabrics that, again, I just don't really know what to do with. But I won't get rid of them. Like I did quite a big de-stash
as well.
Yeah, it's exactly. I did quite a big de-stash when we moved house 2 years ago, and I was quite brutal, actually. I was like, I love this fabric, but I'm never going to use it, or I didn't buy enough of it, for what I want to make. And I was quite, strict with myself, but I just couldn't get rid of any of the ones I bought while I was traveling. But I still haven't done anything with it. So I'd love some, what are your kind of 1 meter cotton suggestions? Because I've got a few, although this is probably the oldest. And it has this kind of border at the edge, so I could make the most of that as well. Like that's the selvage, so you could go right up to that and use it as a pretty border. But yeah, I'm just not really sure.
So Pauline suggests the noodle head backpack.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one. I was thinking about, is it the Firefly tote? Is that, have you seen that one? I can't remember who the pattern company are for that now. I've made one of those, and it's got like it's sort of a big tote bag, and then it has a drawstring cover that you kind of pull tight. Really handy for yarn, like for taking crochet and knitting around. And that would be quite cool as like that bit with an accent. So that might be a good idea. I'm gonna have to look up the Noodlehead backpack.
Yeah, they've got quite a few bag patterns, I think, Noodlehead do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fabric as well, it's got lots of different colours in it as well. So if you found you didn't have enough for a particular project, you could think about colour blocking as well.
Yeah, it would be cool, wouldn't it, with like a black denim or something as well, to kind of bring out all of the colours. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm always a bit funny with bags. Like I definitely make way more garments than I do bags. But I think now that I'm a mum, I have so many bags to use now.
So Linda suggests you could use it for a collar and sleeves and bottom band on a top, and then match it with the same weight black fabric for the main body. So
do you know, that's the collar is a great idea. I have just bought this evening the swing coat pattern by Sasha Starlight. So I've made her side tie dungarees a few times. And she's got this swing pattern out that's got this giant like contrast lapels and then these huge sleeves, and that would be really cool on like a plain rest of the body. So maybe I'll see if I've got enough of that. They are giant lapels, but I think I can probably get that out. That's a good idea.
Great suggestions, thanks guys.
Shall I show you the newest fabric?
Yeah, your latest.
So it's creased because it's just come out of the wash. So I bought this. Have you seen this on Instagram?
Where's this from?
So this is from Simply Fabrics. They're based in Brixton, and it has these absolutely gigantic. This is when my lighting is going to fail. Tiger. I suppose it's almost like a tiger skin rug, I guess, sort of look. And I saw it on their Instagram. They had it in 3 colors. They had this one. They had bright pink and orange as the stripes, and then they had a green one as well. And I was planning on buying the pink and orange, even though pink is not really my color. I'm definitely like a blue-green girl. But the pink and orange, that was the one they had like a sample sewn up in, and it was amazing. And I had decided I was going to buy it, and I woke up the next morning to buy it, and it was sold out.
Oh.
So I went for this one, and it's come, and it's beautiful. Like I absolutely love it. But they now have it in like 6 colorways on pre-order, including the pink and orange. So I could have waited and got the pink and orange, but I do think this will probably get more wear in my wardrobe. So I will roll with it. It wasn't super expensive. I think it was like £10 a meter. It's a lightweight cotton, and I've got 3 meters of it, but it is narrow. It's like 44 inches rather than anything bigger. But I have quite a lot of it, and whatever I make in it is going to be very statement.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you have any ideas for it? Because you don't want to cut up too many of the tigers.
No, I can't work out whether I just want to make a really big skirt, because it would be really nice to wear with like a plain white shirt. One of the viscoses I talked about earlier is just a plain like ivory, and I'm planning on making a shirt that will just go with lots of things, or whether I just want to go all out and make like a giant thing with big sleeves, but then quite a simple dress so that it doesn't cut up too many of them, because the Forget Me Not Patterns April dress, which is the one that has the wavy seam.
Yeah.
I really like the shape of that. I don't wear shift style dresses very much, but I really like the shape of that. And I was sort of wondering, like, do I go for a really simple shift dress like that with giant sleeves, or do I go for a giant skirt to wear with a plain top? Because it's just really cool. But yeah, they still have it on pre-order in all of the colours, so definitely want to go and check out, because I really like Simply Fabrics. They have some quite different, they do dead stock, and they get some quite different things that I don't see from other places. So yeah, I would check them out. But
yeah, everyone's going to be on Simply Fabrics right now.
Yeah, if you get the pink and orange, you have to tag me in what you make, or if you get any of them, you have to tag me in what you make, because I'll be excited to see. But yeah, I don't know whether people think that I should go simple silhouette with big sleeves, or like big dramatic skirt with maybe something simpler up top. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm loving the skirt idea, because then you can always match it with like a more extra top as well if you want to go all out.
Well, I could, and I reckon I'd probably have enough to make like a little crop top or something that I could pair with it, like on holiday. So yeah, it would be really fun. It's crazy and I love it.
Yeah, that's really exciting. We've got another suggestion for like a 1 meter pattern, which is the Donny shirt from Friday Pattern Company.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people sewing that recently. It seems to be like the flavour of the month on Instagram. I've been sewing up the Joni top from So Liberated, which is a similar style. It's like the camp collar, but I love the sleeves and the bust darts on it. They're in like a really good place, and I really like the fit of it. It's a very similar style. I think maybe slightly more fitted. It's got princess seams in the back, so it's just got like a little bit more shape, which I quite like. And I can get that from 1 meter, but it has to be a wide fabric, so I'm not sure I'd have enough of that. But I think I'm drawn to the statement collar, because I think that would be quite cool. So I think that might have solved that problem for me.
Yeah, thanks, Linda, for that suggestion. That's great.
So I quickly show you the ones I've picked out that I don't know what to do with.
For it.
I've got 3, and they're all quite bold, to be honest, which is unsurprising, I suppose. So let's go for this one first. So I've got this. This is a double gauze, and it's got dinosaurs on it in picture frames.
Amazing.
It's a double gauze, but it's really, really soft and fine, and not very. It's more like a muslin, I suppose, than a gauze. Like it's not very crinkly like you get a lot of double gauzes, and it's got these kind of brush strokes in the background. And I got this pre-COVID, probably just pre-COVID, like winter 2019, from a custom fabric run in the States. I went and visited a friend in the States, and she had I had it posted to her. And it's really cool. Oh, sorry, I'm going to cough. But I've got 1.5 yards, but I think it was quite a generous 1.5 yards. I think it might be closer to 2 yards. So like definitely 1.5 meters of this. And I'm not sure whether I should make something for myself, like probably a Joni So Liberated. Because it would be like quite cool with jeans. I've just made myself a pair of lime green trousers, wide leg trousers, that this would be really cool with. Or whether I make something for the boys from it. Because it's been in my stash for long enough that I feel like if I really wanted it, maybe I would have made it already. But I'm not sure. Don't know.
Let us know your suggestions in the chat and in the comments. So Linda says it would be awesome for pajama bottoms.
It would be really cool as a pair of pajama shorts, wouldn't it? I wonder if I would have enough to make me a pair of pajama shorts, and then like James a pair of pajama shorts as well, because he's just moved into like proper pajamas rather than kind of baby pajamas. So that might be quite fun to make. I don't have a pajama pattern, which is crazy, because that's like what most people start learning to sew garments with. But yeah, I've never had to. Actually, that's a lie. I have one by My Handmade Wardrobe that I quite like the shorts of. And I also think the Made by Ray Rose shorts would make quite good pajamas. So maybe that's a good idea. Like make it for me, but not like a day wear thing.
Yeah. And then you could make like a little bib or something with the scraps just to like tie it all together.
Yeah, for Oliver. Or a little pair of like I wonder if I'd have enough to make him something that we could take away. So we're going to Mauritius in November, and I'm quite looking forward to making the boys some clothes for that. I don't make a lot of clothes for the kids because they just grow out of them really quickly. But James is starting to be of the age where I feel like, well, I can make it for him. He'll wear it for a decent chunk of time, and then it will go to Oliver. So I don't feel quite so bad about investing the time. So it would be quite cool to make some like, floaty something for the boys for that. So yeah, maybe I will go for PJs, because if I also make myself like a nice simple shirt, like viscose shirt, then I'd have really nice summer PJs, like a cream shirt, and then these as my shorts would work pretty well. So yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Thank you. I need to do this more often. Really.
All great ideas.
All of the stash. I'll do one more and then we'll see what the time is, I guess.
Yeah.
So I have this, which is oh gosh, it's really creased is what it is. Let me see if I can find a bit that shows the design better. Here you go. It's the Lady McElroy Panda Retreat fabric, and I have a shirt in this in cotton, which annoyingly has a giant fade mark over it, which I've just discovered, which reminded me that I had this. This is their cotton twill fabric, and I've got 3 meters of it. I ordered it from Sherwood Fabrics when they were having some kind of sale, and they did it in like a 3 meter piece. I probably wouldn't have bought 3 meters otherwise. But it's really soft and quite thin, actually. Like it's not kind of a proper drill. It is more of a twill. I can't remember how they describe it, but it's beautifully soft. And I bought it originally to make a pair of dungarees, but I think it's too, like, it's not heavy enough for that. It's not kind of weighty enough. And it's just been in my stash ever since. But I love the design, and I can't work out whether I should make like a pinafore with it, which I think would be a bit more suited to the fabric. Just go for the dungarees and have them as fairly lightweight, or something else, because it's probably light enough weight that I could make myself a dress from it. But it would not be like a summery dress. Definitely be
like a shirt dress type thing.
Yeah, like it feels a little bit like, you know, Kath Kidston do that kind of quite canvasy fabric, and they make dresses in that. It feels like it could be a bit like that, to be honest. But yeah, I'm not sure. And it's really cool. And again, it's another one that should just like be in my wardrobe, not in my stash. So yeah, I'd love people's suggestions, or if they've sewn with this Lady McElroy base before, because I don't think you get it. I think it might be called Wexford, the base. You don't get it in all of their designs, and I think it's mostly Sherwoods that seem to sell it. I don't seem to see it anywhere else. So yeah, if you've sewn with it before, because it's a bit unusual, it's got a little bit of stretch to it, like a bounce rather than stretch, I would say, which has made me sort of second guess a few times what I should do with it. So I'm not really sure, but yeah, I've got loads of it, so it would be nice to turn it into something.
Yeah, I mean, the little bit of stretch could make it really good for something more fitted as well, like a shirt dress, because then it'd be more comfy as well.
Yeah, it definitely could be. It also would actually be really cool, like wintry pajama bottoms, to be honest. I'm not like, yeah, the pajama suggestions obviously got to me.
Definitely going to have to crank out some pajamas.
Yeah, we will. Although, yeah, well, we'll see. But I would love people's suggestions for that, because it's so pretty. And if I could think of a nice thing to make with that, like it's a base that I would like to buy again, but I can't until I've made something.
Yeah, you need to get inspired, and then you'll be making everything in it.
Yeah, like so Twig and Tail, who mostly make kids patterns but do some adult patterns as well, have just released a pinafore pattern that has a really lovely construction of bib. Like, so I was in the tester team for it, but they made an edit to the fit, and I didn't have time to sew up a new one with the new fit. And I did wonder if it would be quite cool for that, but it's got like edging to the bib, like quite wide kind of edges that turn into the straps, and I didn't know if it might cut the design up too much for it. But that's kind of, yeah, I'm wondering if a pinafore might be like a useful thing in my wardrobe. So I'm kind of leaning towards that, but I can't quite decide. I really like the bib on the Jennifer Lauren Pippi pinafore, which is really like curved and shaped. So I could think about that as well. But it looks like we might be coming up short on suggestions. I think people might be as confused as I am.
Yeah, everyone's still thinking about it. Well, you can always send Laura a message. I've put all her links and stuff to Instagram in the description, so you can always send her a message if you suddenly get inspired, or you can do a comment on the video afterwards, and I'll let her know what you think.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I think a pinafore could be really good because you've got like it's got a bit of the structure, but then you've got some drape for the skirt as well.
Yeah, I think it would be nice. The Pippi's got a nice skirt as well, but I might do something a bit more floaty. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Awesome. Right, I'm gonna aim to wrap up for like 5:02 in case anyone wants to dash off for the sewing bee. So we've got a suggestion. The McCall's Marcy dress shirt. So the Marcy shirt dress.
Ooh, I've not heard of that one. I'll have to go have a look.
Yeah, you should have brought a notepad to this.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm gonna have to like screenshot everything later and go back and have a look.
That's all there when you watch it back, I think. So always check up on everyone's suggestions.
Yeah, that's helpful. I haven't made a big 4 pattern for such a long time. I haven't made a McCall's pattern for ages and ages, and I can't decide whether that's like a reason to go back and try or whether that's a reason to avoid it. I'm never quite sure. I feel like at the minute my appetite for new patterns, like properly fitting new patterns, is not that great, because I don't have loads of time to sew, so I'd kind of rather sew something I know that will get a good fit. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to sew new things. It's just that it plays on my mind a little bit if it's something new in terms of fitting a new block.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's always a lot more of a time investment, isn't it? So it's the M8139.
I will look it up. Thank you.
Yeah, so have you got anything else that you want to quickly tell us about before we wrap up?
Oh, I don't know. So me and Ivan are meeting tomorrow. So there'll probably be like 12,000 new ideas for the business coming. So I would say keep an eye out on the Specky Seamstress, because we have got a few new ideas and some things we're thinking about launching later on in the year. And it's just always great to hear from people what they're making. But I would say, nothing super urgent to share. It's not like a book plug at the end of an interview that you get on TV or anything. Nothing major. But I would say we're doing the rounds at some of the markets this year. So come and say hi, come and find us, and let us know what you want to see from us.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm really excited to see what's next and all your new ideas that you're going to come up with, probably on the fly tomorrow. Quick, suddenly do this.
We're going to the garden centre for lunch. That's halfway between us, both of us with babies in tow. So it will be a fun business meeting.
Everyone will look over and be like, oh, look at these mums just having a nice little chat, and you'll be there with all your ideas, like, yeah, let's do this design and this design.
It's the garden centre we met at to do the maths for the subscription boxes. So I took a bit of paper away with me with like prices for different parts of the world and how it was all going to work and everything, and I like kept it in my car for ages to make sure I knew where it was so I could put it all onto the website.
The filing system is just like in the car.
yeah, it's a good place.
Amazing. Yeah, well, if you like bias binding, then definitely check out the subscription, because it's a great little treat, as we said earlier, to arrive in your mailbox every month. So that's really exciting, and to get your hands on the new designs like a lot before everyone else as well, don't you? So you can sew it up, be the first to sew it up in all your makes, which is great.
Yeah, you get 3 months exclusivity, and you can buy more of it when you're a club member, like before then. So same as the labels as well. You can get hold of more of them as a club member before everybody else.
Amazing. Yeah, so you could stock up on all of it and not let anyone else get it if you really found your favorite design.
You could. I would love that.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Linda says it's been so nice to hear from the lovely lady that is Specky Seamstress.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us, Laura. And Pauline says thoroughly enjoyed the interview. Off to switch on the TV now. Yep, we know you're all keen to to watch the sewing bee. Mel says, how about stash up bias? So yeah, maybe we'll have to have a collab discussion at some point about how we can do some escape to the stash bias or something.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah, we're always open to new ideas and happy to partner with small businesses. And we also run custom bias rounds now. So if you've got an idea for a bias that you'd love to see that might not make it to the shop for whatever reason, then reach out and let us know, because we do that now too.
Amazing. All right. Well, I'll leave you with that. And yeah, do come and join me again on YouTube at 8 p.m. next week. I'll be talking to Chris, who is Unsocial on Instagram, and she is currently running a pattern hacking challenge. So I'm sure a lot of you guys will be interested in, chatting pattern hacking. So hopefully I'll see you next week. And enjoy the sewing bee, all the UK people. And also if you're in the UK, don't forget to vote tomorrow. So yeah, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.